So, continuing the evolution of my interest in, well, Sheffield made knives, really. I've been buying a lot of Arthur Wright and Son knives because they are fantastic and affordable. Um, but recently I checked out that guy's store, like his whole store, not just his Arthur Wright knives, and I noticed that he also has these Taylor Eyewitness knives. So, after I thought about it a little bit, I decided to order one of these Taylor Eyewitness Barlows because I mean, if I'm going to have a Barlow collection, which I do, by the way, in case you guys didn't know about that, I have quite an infatuation, is that the right word? With the Barlow knife, just because, it's the knife of a hardworking, like blue collar type guy, pretty much. Um, you know, it's the knife that working class people or men carried for years, and they've been around for hundreds of years, and they originated in Sheffield, England, which is where this knife is from and where the Arthur Wright knives are from. This, much like the Arthur Wright knives, is a affordable Barlow knife. This was, I think, $35, something like that. Pretty affordable, off of what's his name, James and Company, on AE, on allaboutpocketknives.net, I think it is. So yeah, $35, something like that. Came in a kind of almost like a blister pack. Like, this looks like it's supposed to be hanging on a store shelf. And I wish they sold stuff like this in stores in America, in the United States, I should say. Um, but I guess if you go to like a sporting goods store in the United Kingdom, maybe they just have these in the store, which is super cool. You don't see that a lot here in the United States, because most of the knives that we sell at big box stores, sporting goods stores, hardware stores are Chinese made knives, unfortunately. Now, usually most hardware stores, outdoor stores and stuff will have more expensive knives. They have some case knives, some buck knives, sometimes some Bear and Son knives that are still made here in the United States. But the majority of it is a bunch of flashy, not great Chinese made modern folders, is what most of it is. I don't have a knife on the screen. I don't know why I just talked for like 30 seconds to a minute without a knife on the screen there. That was unprofessional of me. I'm sorry. But this is the Taylor's Eyewitness Barlow. And the action on it's great. It's kind of a goofy looking Barlow, to be honest. Just the blade shape's weird. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just odd. The handle has that typical, like, Arthur Wright and Sons has a similar thing with their Barlows, where it swells out near the end of the handle. So I guess that's just like a typical Sheffield thing, maybe. I'm not really sure. But this is an interesting Barlow. This one actually does have a long enough bolster to be considered a Barlow by most people's opinion, even though I still think the Arthur Wright knives are Barlows. So they do have an elongated bolster. It's just not as elongated as most Barlows are. And this one is more elongated, and it's like fancy. It's got some interesting, like a step there, which is interesting. And it's got the eye there, Eyewitness, Sheffield, England, which is pretty cool, stamped on the bolster. It's always cool to have a maker's mark or something stamped on the bolster, because I think typically that was something that was big with Barlows, is that you had this big piece of either steel or nickel silver that you could, stamp your logo or your maker's mark or whatever in. Of course, it does have a tang stamp. That's the exact same thing. But yeah, so this is just the basic one, wooden handles. The one thing I will say about Taylor's Eyewitness is they have a lot more like higher end stuff, whereas the Arthur Wright knives are all pretty basic. The Stag's pretty much like the best thing you're going to get, although you can get ones with like filed back springs and stuff, which isn't anything that I'm into. Like, I'm not about filed back springs. I feel like that's just a way for more like moisture and stuff to get into the knife and ruin it slowly over time. So I don't like filed back springs, but that's just me. You can get that from Arthur Wright and Son. And of course, you can also order a custom knife from Ashley Harrison. Is that his name? Who I think is part owner of Arthur Wright and Son. And he does like custom knives. From what I understand, they're pretty affordable, although I haven't ordered one or anything. just based off of what people have told me on Instagram and videos on YouTube and everything. Um, but this is the basic thing. Taylor's Eyewitness, they have some knives that are almost $100 that are like horn handled and all sorts of fancy materials and stuff. This is just some kind of wood. I don't remember what kind of wood. It's a hardwood handle. It doesn't say what kind of wood it is on the package. Does it say anywhere what kind of wood it is? No. It's just hardwood. That's what it is. It's hardwood. They do have some care instructions on the back of the package here since I flipped it over. Some caring for your knife and everything. So that's cool for new people. But the main reason why I had not even thought about Taylor's Eyewitness was because I don't think they offer any of their knives in carbon steel anymore. And that's what I prefer. This knife is $440 or $420. I don't remember. It doesn't say on here either. Sorry, I bought this a little while ago. I'm slacking on the videos. It's either $440 or $420 stainless. But for $30, $35, that's a pretty good steal. I'm just more about carbon steel. That's just what I'm into. I like the fact that it stains and patinas over time. That's why I like carbon steel. Now, some people will say carbon steel holds an edge longer. I don't know. I don't think that it's really something you can test. I don't know. Like, you could do some sort of crazy cutting test and everything, but I think everybody's biases is going to come into it at that point. So I'm not going to argue with anybody who's going to say, well, carbon steel actually does cut longer, because I don't know. But I'm telling you that the reason that I personally like carbon steel is because it patinas and changes over time. That's why I like it. But yeah, so this is stainless. It's either 420 or 440 stainless steel. I don't remember which one. I think the bolster's steel too, which is cool. I like a Barlow with a steel bolster. That's how it would have been. And that's, cool and everything. I think the whole knife's steel. I don't think there's any brass on it. Actually, makes it a little bit less expensive. There's a little gap there. I didn't notice that before between the liner and the bolster there. That's interesting. But yeah, blade shape's weird. I think it looks weird. Phone doesn't want to focus on it because it's that weird looking. Edge grind's pretty good, actually. It's got a little bit of a recurve to it. But yeah, just a weird looking knife, I think. Like, the blade shape is odd. But it's comfortable to hold, and I believe it'd be, a good one to use. It's got a half stop, like you saw there when I almost just cut myself. The action on the knife is pretty good, and you can just pinch it open, which is nice. Especially if you're like my friend and you don't have fingernails, being able to pinch open a knife is nice. That being said, it does have a nail neck. But the action on opening is really good. The action on closing is really good. Really well made knife for the price point of, like I said, it's like $35, something like that. Well put together for that. And once again, just like the Arthur Wright and Son knives, this is a basic working knife, pretty much. This isn't, super high-end collectible. I'm going to buy this and resell it on eBay for 3 times the MSRP. Nothing like that. This is just basic pocket knife. Pull it out, use it to cut something, put it back in your pocket. Don't worry about it that much. Pocket knife, because if something happens to it, it's $35 to replace it, so who cares? But really well made for that $35. If you're like me and you are a Barlow aficionado, perhaps, or aficionado, I think that's how that's pronounced. If you're really into Barlow knives like I am, I think that you should probably have one of these in your Barlow collection, just because, it's another representation of the Sheffield Barlow, which is where the Barlow is rumored to have originated from. So it's an interesting part of Barlow history. Of course, this isn't the knife that they would have produced back then. That's crazy. But, maybe some sort of facsimile of that. But yeah, interesting knife, well made for the price, certainly. Good hardworking knife as far as I'm concerned. Wish they made it in carbon steel. That's the only thing I gotta say about it. I want it in C75 carbon steel, guys. Get on it. Taylor's Eyewitness. I know you're watching, um, but it would be cool to have it in carbon steel. Not the end of the world or anything. Stainless steel's fine. It's just not what I'm really into. But anyway, it's the video on this Taylor's Eyewitness Barlow, the super basic one. That's what I'm going to call this. This is the base model. Base model. You can upgrade up to like the LX and like the ES and the GT and everything, and spend more money. But this is the base model. But anyway, it's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys have a good day. I'll see you in the next one.